Islam. Inconstancy is powerful in the heart of man. Intemperance swayeth it whither it will. Despair engrowtheth much of it, and fear proclaimeth. Behold, I sit unraveled therein, but vanity is beyond them all. Weep not therefore at the calamities of the human state, rather laugh at his follies. In the hands of a man addicted to vanity, life then is but a shadow of a dream. The hero, the most renowned of human character, what is he but the bubble of his weakness? The public is unstable and ungrateful. Why should the man of wisdom endanger himself for fools? At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish American prayer, the source from which we draw our strength. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise to give praise to Allah, who is the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give honor to Allah's holy and illustrious prophet, Noble Drew Ali, who is the founder of our address, the Moorish Science Temple of America. I'd like to give honor to the forerunner to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Moses Garvey. I'd like to give honor to Marcus Moses Garvey because this brother had to have pure thoughts in order to pave the way for love. I'd like to give honor to all of those and honor to all of you that have laid in assist us in this, our divine and gigantic mission, the uplifting of fallen humanity. And last but not least, I'd like to give a special honor to F-It, because so many of us don't even try. It is a custom when addressing a group of Moors, wayfarers, or sympathizers to read from the Moorish Holy Quran. And I read on this wise. Chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nation. And it's read on this wise. The divine origin of the Asiatic nation. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nations of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans, etc. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations, the Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hammatites and a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and the Mexicans in Central America, etc. All of these are Muslims. The Turks are the true descendants of Hagar, who are the chief protectors of the Islamic creed of Mecca, beginning from Muhammad I, the founder of the uniting of Islam by the command of the great universal God, Allah. Thus, we just had a reading from the Moorish Holy Quran, divinely prepared by our holy prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. Praise Allah and honor to the prophet Noble Drew Ali. Today, we have another blessing, another subject matter that is important that I bring forth to the listening audience today. I have one of my brothers. One of my brothers is Brother Ronald Porter-Ill. Ronald Porter-Ill is the Sheik. He's one of the directors of the National Security Force, and he directs the director of one of the karate studios that the Moors have in Washington, D.C. But in our conversation recently, I called him, and he was talking to me about a brother by the name of Clifford Jackson Bey. Clifford Jackson Bey just passed form, and there's a brother that he left the temple with, who's in charge of it, and he had been talking to Brother Porter-Ill about the 13 bald-headed Moors, because 13 bald-headed Moors was some subject matters that's been around in the Moorish Science Temple of America about these brothers for a long time. Now, all of the brothers that was members of the 13 bald-headed Moors are no longer living today. So what I want to do is I want to give some understanding about these brothers who was members of the temple in the Moorish Science Temple of America that was founded by the prophet Noble Ali. Because you also have some other brothers that was in Maryland, the House of Corrections Preparation Center #1. And they had a good working relationship with German Bay during that time. And during that time, these brothers, they was moving in the same light as these brothers who was part of the 13 bald-headed Moors was moving in, when the only difference is the brothers that I'm speaking about now, the 13 bald-headed Moors, this was in 1954. And all these brothers, none of them is living today. So what I want to do today is I want to talk about the 13 bald-headed Moors who was in Lexington, Kentucky. They call it KY. And when they was in KY, most of them was out of Washington, D.C. Most of them. But when they was in KY, there was a brother out of New York City named H. Scott Ill. And H. Scott Ill was a Sheik. And H. Scott Ill had been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America most of his life. I had talked to Sister Franklin Ill, who used to live on the Moorish home #1. And when she had moved up to New York, she knew this brother. So they had a good relationship, and she told me some of the concepts and the ideology that he used to do what he did. So they was in Lexington, Kentucky. They called it KY. And there was an old brother there, old timer. He kept a bald head. And when he's in his cell, he was in there, and he kept the windows up. And when all of the Moors would come by to see him, they would always say, "Moor, you need to close that window a little bit because it's too cold in here." But the Moors say, "We need this fresh air." So it started out was this brother, H. Scott Ill, who was from New York City. And he himself wound up in Lexington, Kentucky. So while he was there was a few brothers there that he was close to. I'm going to talk about two of the brothers right now. One of them right here, I got here covered, is Brother R. Matthews Ill. And the other one right here named is Brother Wesley Walker Bey. Wesley Walker Bey, Matthews Ill, G.S. Hatchet Bey, and a million more was in Lexington, Kentucky. And they met this brother, H. Scott Ill. And he told these brothers, say, "Brothers, what y'all need to do, y'all need to get in touch, because most of y'all are from Washington, D.C. Y'all need to get in touch with this brother over in Baltimore. His name was Rufus Lynch-Bey. He was a good sheik, and y'all need to get with him and learn about the prophet and set up some temples. Because this is something that's needed because our people need it. So that's what they did. H. Scott Ill had them to get in touch with Brother R. Lynch-Bey in Baltimore. Now you have to understand that this was like in 1954, 1953, and 1954. So during this time, a lot of us didn't know anything about the difference between Negro, colored, and black. But we all knew that we weren't Negro, colored, and black because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. So in 1954, they got in touch with Brother Lynch-Bey. And Lynch-Bey communicated with these brothers, and he took it to the chamber. And when he took it to the chamber, he said there were some brothers out of Washington, D.C. And we've been working with these brothers, and we have a brother in Baltimore working with these brothers. So we want to establish a Moorish Science Temple in Washington, D.C. so we could start teaching our people about their nationality and their divine creed. So at the convention, Lynch-Bey took it to the grand body. And the grand body rejected it. They said, we're not going to take the teachings of the Prophet Noble Jew Ali inside no institutions to no convicts. So the Moors was writing back and forth, in touch with the Moor. Lynch-Bey sending literature in, and they're teaching. So they went back to the convention in 1956. When they went to the convention again in 56, they said, well, we heard you, we listened to you, and we looked at you, but we cannot establish a Moorish Science Temple of America inside no institutions. So Lynch-Bey cried, mental tears, because he seen that there was brothers who was trying to learn the truth about themselves, and he knew about the spirit that was in Lex, because this brother H. Scott Ill told him about it. And Lynch-Bey was working with him. So Lynch-Bey, he said, okay, you don't want to give these brothers no charter and to teach the teachings of the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the court and I'm going to get a charter so I can teach these brothers the truth about themselves, because we need them. We need them, and all this stuff that the Prophet had been going through and went through, these might be the keys that we need to help us reestablish some things within the Moorish Science Temple of America. Because the Prophet had been gone. This was in 1954, 55, 56. And what Lynch-Bey did, he raised up a lot of brothers, and most of them that he raised up had a wife and children. So they came into the Moorish Science Temple of America. So there was a separate rate. He separated himself from Brother C. Kirkland Bey, F. Nelson Bey, J. Blakely Bey, he separated himself from that grand body. However, he knew he was out of order, because ain't but one prophet and ain't but one temple. And he knew that when the temple kept denying those brothers out of Washington, D.C., I hear his name all the time, G.S. Hatchet Bey. Hear his name all the time. They're always talking about him because he raised up a lot of brothers. Matter of fact, the same brother Wesley Walker Bey that I just mentioned his name, later on down the line in 1978, when the brothers out of the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey, they had to go to court. And when they had to go to court, the blessing was that they got control back of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because look at these brothers here. They had this since 1956. And the Moors got that and they went back. But Lynch-Bey, this brother, he knew that ain't but one prophet, ain't but one nation, ain't but one temple. And he knew that he was in violation to separate the prophet's law by leaving one body going to another, because it said one prophet, one temple, one nation. And I used to talk to him about this subject matter all the time. And he always reiterated to everybody about the grand body and where the power and authority resided. So now they left the grand body. And I want to explain this. I want to explain it because it's very important that I do. Now, this brother Lynch-Bey, I've got letters, and he was, man, this brother's relationships with the Moorish Americans. I remember I was talking to a brother recently, and he was telling me that he remembered the records and how the brother used to teach in the grand body. And a lot of people have certain lessons that other people don't have. And let me explain what I meant by that. Because I said in 1956, he left the grand body and established something so those brothers and sisters out of Washington, D.C. would be able to teach the truth about themselves. And he took the charter. Lynch-Bey took the charter and sent it back to Chicago. Now, a lot of brothers and sisters, I remember a friend of mine, they gave the charter to him. He had the charter, but when he left that grand body, he kept the charter. But if you have a charter and you're no longer with that government, that charter don't mean anything to you. But let me tell you some of the things that this brother Lynch-Bey did when he started opening up. They was doing real good in Baltimore. We got all kind of pictures and things that they was doing, and I was thinking about Porter Eel when he asked me to talk about the 13 bald-headed Moors. And I remember we had a basketball team in Washington, D.C. And we had a basketball team, and matter of fact, we have a chairman, the chairman of Temple 71 right now. He had a brother named Kennard Rich. He had a brother, and he played on our basketball team. We were the champions, the citywide champions for 10 years in basketball. We had little young brothers, our brother Benson Eel's sons. We had brothers and sisters that won the citywide spelling bee in the city. They won the spelling bee because they was getting tutored real well in school. They learned the lessons. They doing the prophet's work. They built the Mufti staff, and they did a lot of good work. And what brothers fail to realize, at this same temple that Lynch-Bey established really is the same temple under the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey. But when you have brothers and sisters want to learn the truth about themselves, you got to go get them, especially when you go to somebody 2 or 3 straight years. So when the brother wanted to know some things about the 13 bald-headed Moors, let me tell you, it was 13 of them first. And 13, each one of those 13 represent Temple 13, because Temple 13 was established in Baltimore by the Cook-Bey family. The prophet sent those brothers down there in Baltimore to open up a Moorish Science Temple of America. So when they came to Baltimore and to find somewhere to open up a temple, the temple was over on Sharp Street. So Brother Lynch-Bey showed the Cook-Bey brothers where the building was over on Sharp Street, and they was doing a great work. They started working. They started doing the work of the prophet. But Cook-Bey took the prophet took Lynch-Bey to meet the prophet. And when he took Lynch-Bey to meet the prophet, Lynch-Bey had his fez on. He had a Masonic fez on, looking crazy. So when he first seen the prophet said, what you need to do right now, you need to take that fez off, because we're not going to have nobody over here with this kind of fez on, because the science is different. So Lynch-Bey took the sign, but he went back to the prophet. He said, prophet, you told me, I didn't want to tell you this in front of nobody else, but you told me to take off my fez and to put on this red fez. And this is where my blessing came. Because when the prophet told Lynch-Bey about the fez, Lynch-Bey said, well, why do Sheik Bey was allowed to wear his fez? And the prophet said, it's about signs. And he said, you'll get the signs later on. So the prophet Noble Ali, not only did he allow Sheik Bey to wear that fez, he gave him the signs. See, there was some stuff that the prophet had. There was some literature that the prophet had. And after all of these, just like recently, I'm going to say this because I'm going to get into my subject matter. Recently, my sister Graham-Bey, Barbara Graham-Bey, she was with the Prince Lynch-Bey for a lot of years. And she posted a grand body up there. And the grand body that she posted up there, it had Pearl up there, and it had the prophet's chauffeur up there. But we come to find out that the prophet disbanded the Supreme Grand Council. Half of the people that was with the prophet, really wasn't with him, but just using his name to get finance, working with the government, especially over there in Temple number 4, because you could look at so many dudes' cars and seen everything. But what it was, this brother, A. Scott Ill, had seen the stuff that we was going through, seen the things that the prophet went through, and the prophet had gone. So he helped also to establish a temple in Lawton, Virginia. And when he did that, you had brothers and you had sisters that was coming up in there learning the truth about themselves, learning of their higher self and learning of their lower self. And this went on for a whole lot of years. And a lot of brothers and sisters was being raised up. I remember there was another brother that Lynch-Bey took through the chamber, through Porter Hill, because Lynch-Bey was gone. And his name was Clifford Jackson Bey. He's from Chicago. But what Porter Hill did, the Moors there, they had this brother with a few other Moors that grew up with us to go and find the prophet's grave site. And Sister Christina Price Bey was our national secretary then. And when they went to the grave site to try to find the prophet, they went back to her and said, sister, we can't find the prophet's grave site nowhere. It's nowhere to be found. So she told them again where to go, and they went. And when they went, they found the prophet's grave site. So this is why right now, until that brother Jackson Bey was doing what he was doing in Chicago, working with Lynch-Bey and Port Hill, there was no grave site that anybody could go through to pay honor and respect to the prophet Noble Ali. So until recently, in our era, that's over 20, 30 years ago, there was no grave site of the prophet Noble Ali. And this was one of the things that the Europeans wanted to do. They wanted to make sure that all this was squashed. But right now, it's getting higher and higher, because all of those brothers and sisters that was working with the government and that was sneezing on the divine creed, they're on their way out. And we have these young brothers now, the rappers and everybody, they're talking about reparation. And everybody know that have any kind of wisdom at all, in order for you to even deal with reparation, you're going to have to go back to who your forefathers were. Because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So Noble Drew Ali, when he established the Moorish Science Temple of America, he gave us a lesson. I want to read this lesson to you because it's very important. I'm reading from chapter 47, verse 14. And it says, every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in accord with the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. Now what is he saying? He said there's but one temple. He said one temple, one prophet, one nation. And he's saying that it ain't no two. It ain't no but one. And the one is nationality and divine creed. So all of these brothers and all of these sisters that you see that got these little groups and calling themselves Moorish Americans, but they really probably do. Now, I'm going to get back to Sister Lynch-Bey, because when she posted on her social media page a picture with Drew Ali's chauffeur and Prophet chauffeur and Sister Pearl Ali, there was something going on. There was something that the European had going on with them brothers and sisters. This is why the Prophet left. When I was at Moorish Home number 1, I went by Moorish Home number 1. I went over at least 3 or 4 times. And Brother Loveville helped us so much, they was coming in every week from the colony and coming in and teaching. But when we had the meeting at the colony and Loveville set it up, see, Loveville set it up so beautiful. I respect this brother because he did everything that he could, you know, to unite the grand body of C. Kirkham Bay that left and to bring us back in unity. He did his job. He did that, and Brother J. Frazier Bey, he's our Grand Mufti now. And you had a brother named V. Jones Bey. He's from Temple 78 in Baltimore. Loveville made it possible that once a month that the grand body would send brothers and sisters inside those institutions so we could teach these lessons to the little ones. So he formed that, and we had 2 brothers coming from this temple, 2 brothers coming from this temple. But the 2 brothers that came from this temple, you know, when they come in every week, the temple members, we'll give them a couple of $100 every week that they come in to aid and assist them. Frazier Bey and Brother the other Mo, you know, they said, no, we don't want the Mo. We'll take the money and we'll put it into the treasure. Other than that, we don't want the money. But these was the brothers. These were the brothers that was with the temple in D.C. You know what I mean? That when I went over there, they said, all right, Lynch-Bey, don't come here trying to run nothing. So it's only half right now. There is a temple in Lawton. There was a temple in Lawton, but you have to understand there's history. There's a whole lot of history about what transpired in Lawton. I remember Brother Matthew Zeal. We call him Abaduck. You never heard of his name. And there's a brother by the name of Porter-Ill. You never heard of these brothers' names. But these brothers are the ones that went to Chicago and all these other places when Moors will call them. They will go up there and rectify a lot of foolishness. And now those brothers are no longer here, but they have their family here. So if you want to know about the 13 bald-headed Moors, anything you want to know about the 13 bald-headed Moors, what you need to do is put down everything that you're doing and go over there and talk to Brother Jones-Bey. You need to go to Washington, D.C. and talk to Brother Jones-Bey, because there's a lot of history up there. Like I say, they chairman up there. He got a lot of history. His brother, we call him Pee-wee. His name is Kennard, too. We grew up together as children. And this brother, that brother he know more Moorish science than his brother, because he's been on our team for 10 years. I grew up with him. Matter of fact, his brother went and tried out for a football team, a professional football team. And Brother Benson Hill and those brothers is still giving him that honor. So you haven't really yet heard anything about what took place with those 13 bald-headed Moors in Lexington, Kentucky, and who founded some things. See, I remember that there was about 3 or 4 brothers, and they had begun to come back to the temple and start working with the Grand Sheik. And I was hoping that the Grand Sheik would have went and talked to a certain other brothers, but you can't hold them accountable because they was trying to learn the teachings of the prophet. And the grand body said, we're not going to take the teachings of the prophet inside there to the institution. But now all that has changed. That has changed because through the court, I got the paperwork of the court. When we went, they took us to court. Now, Wesley Walker Bey, my man I'm talking about on this picture, he did all the paperwork when they went to court. When Loveville and them took German Bey to court. And in the court, I got the paperwork, the judge said some things that made me shake my head, because the judge gave honor to Dr. R. German Bey for the work that those brothers and sisters was doing, not just in Washington and Baltimore, what they was doing all across the country. Because I remember Sister Dawson Bey, we call her McCraig Hill. See, we all grew up together. And when we come out of court, she said, you know what the judge said, Lynch-Bey? She said, the judge said, Loveville, you need to teach more love. And he said, the judge said, German Bey, you need to teach more peace. Now, Dawson Bey is gone, Sister Joyce is gone, and a lot of more that was a part of those days, they are no longer here. But there are still history in the Moorish Science Temple of America that came from those brothers in Temple 13. And this Temple 13 was the Temple 13. When Drew Ali established his first 15 temples, one of those temples was Temple 13. And Temple 13 was the one that this brother German Bey helped establish. So our history, the brothers and sisters that still living that I'm close to, I was praying for years. This is why Brother Loveville did what he did when he hooked us up when we was going back and forth to the colony, you know, with this brother Page Hill. Page Hill is a brother that Loveville gave to me. He had a brother named Dr. Page Hill out of Chicago. They got a sign up there when he passed up in Chicago Hospital giving this brother honor. So everybody always talk about Lawton, talk about the prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple. Man, I was in Lawton one time, and I went around in people's cells to visit them, and everybody was in there studying. Even though you had a lot of brothers that was in the north, you had a lot of brothers in there was studying the teachings of the prophet. And I seen nowhere else around the country that people had the knowledge that those brothers had. And they had a brother by the name of, that I called his name earlier, you know, Hatchet Bey. He's one of the sharpest brothers that was around, but we couldn't get him into the Moorish Science Temple of America. He was only good when he went to the penitentiary. When he went to the penitentiary, then he was able to do the work of the prophet. But you right here I have a book. This is in Washington, D.C. named W. Wace Eel. He's in all these books. He was the Grand Sheik. He was the Grand Sheik in Washington, D.C., Temple number 1. He was the Grand Sheik of the 13 bald-headed Moors. When we was all in Lexington, Kentucky, he was there too, but he went home. And when he went home, he went to the Moorish Science Temple of America and started building. Now, they had a place in D.C. called the White Law. And the White Law is a place where is a house of ill repute. And this is where all the Moors will wind up. You know, they just got out the jump. And you had the Muftis there, Porter Hill and a lot of other brothers. They used to go up there in the White Law and take all these brothers' nationality cards and take everything that they had and say they was part of the prophet because they wasn't dealing with it. But you cannot serve two masters at the same time. This is the essence. There's no difference than them 13 bald-headed Moors or them brothers and sisters over there in Temple number 1 and Preparation Center number 1. There's no difference. It ain't but one book, one piece of literature. All literature are the same. But through that brother H. Scott Eel out of Temple 21 in New York City, these brothers in Washington, D.C. was able to elevate, overcome, and be the son of Allah made manifest. I got the paper right here. I got the paper. His name was W. Wace Eel. He come out of my neighborhood, much older than me. Come out 4th and N neighborhood, and he was the Grand Sheik in Washington, D.C. But you had all these other brothers that we keep calling their name. They weren't nowhere near the prophet. They didn't even go to the Moorish Science Temple. Let me tell you something. One of the things that they was told, you said that you was a Moorish American. Whenever you go to a Moorish meeting in the Moorish Science Temple of America, there's a particular way that the meeting is open. You're open with the divine constitution, the bylaw, the dictionary law, all literature the prophet brought us. You have to open the meeting according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So if you see somebody who say they're Moorish American and they teaching the prophet's teaching, the first thing you have to do is read the laws of the prophet. You don't open no meeting without reading the laws of the prophet. And this is one of the things that I loved about those brothers that I met come out of Lex, is that they went according to the law. Now, a lot of times when they go back in the street, no telling what they might do because they're still trying to overcome. Because all of us have foes that we have to overcome. We have to overcome and be the strength of Allah made manifest. You can't serve two masters at the same time. The only strength that the Satan have is the strength that we give him. I was looking here about Brother Dingle Eel, Sister Lynch-Bey, and Brother Wace Eel. Brother Wace Eel was our Grand Sheik from 4th and N, Washington, D.C. He was our Grand Sheik. He was a little older than Hatchet Bey. So you got to understand, we calling brothers' names out, but there's only few brothers that really come out of Lex that come home and were doing the work of the prophet. Look at these brothers here. They stand on the 7. Look at them. All these brothers right here that's in these things. And then, like I say, that's Wesley there. And this is Matthews here. Lynch-Bey called them 4 or 5 times. They had to go up to Chicago. A lot of things is taking place right now in the Moorish Science Temple of America. But our Grand Sheik, he could pull everybody together like the prophet left where it counts at. Because you got to understand there's 2 different temples. There's a temple that talk about the national and divine movement. And then Jew Ali say, I brought you everything that it take to save the nation. Now take it and save yourself. And if there was anything else that you needed, I would have brought you that too. So a lot of people say, well, we got to know what Jew Ali 1, we got to know what Jew Ali 2, 3, 4, and 5. But Jew Ali say, I brought you everything that it take to save a nation, that take it and save yourself. And what that meant is that it ain't but one. Anything that Jew Ali gave us, it came from Allah. Allah sent it to us. He sent Allah to tell us these things, and this is what the brothers, the 13 bald-headed Moors, these are what those original brothers was doing, was living according to the law. I remember when we went to court, when Jeremy Bey got a call and we went to court. And before we went to court, they had a headquarters on 14th and H. And all of the muftis was over there every day. You had to come over there, and they did a lot of studying about certain parts of the prophet's literature so we could have it when we went to court. When we went to court, didn't nobody have nothing to say. The judge just say, you stay over there, and you stay over there. I still got that same paperwork right now. But really, I'm in violation too, because I'm supposed to be under the grand body of C. Kirkland Bey. I'm supposed to have a temple over there. I'm supposed to be paying my per capita tax over there, but they acting crazy. They're acting funny. Because you was with German Bey, they're going to look at you as being somebody crazy, and you was grown while they was a baby. The stuff that they know, the stuff that you got from the colony, they don't have that yet. But they are my brothers, and they are my sisters. And I just like to reiterate that those brothers and sisters, they did a lot of building, they did a lot of growing, they had a lot of building, they had a lot of children, and they're still elevating into the teachings of the prophet today. Most of the brothers are gone, but we need to have a meeting because right now, certain things ain't being said. And the rest of them can't say it because they was living according to something else. You can't serve two masters at the same time. But the essence of this 13 bald-headed moral thing was just brothers and sisters who was given the teachings of the prophet, and they was teaching these lessons to the little ones that they might learn to love instead of hate. I guess the reason why Brother Porter wanted to know a little bit about, because I ain't going to do too much talking about this 13 bald-headed morals anyway, see, in the public anyway, because there's certain things that you don't do in the public, certain things you don't say in the public. And the prophet told us this, so the Grand Sheik, I'm going to come up there and see you, brother, and I'm going to give you some of this paperwork that you can see for yourself. They got all these brothers in it. Matter of fact, here's a booklet that German Bey wrote. Right here, going all the way back to 19 this and 19 that. But he tells us about Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. So he's telling us to learn to love instead of hate. He's telling us to deal with our higher self. But I listen to a lot of them. They sound like Negro. They sound like colored. They sound like black. Everybody want to be the leader. Everybody want to be the leader, but ain't but one. It ain't but one. You want to know who the leader is? You got C. Kirkland Bey. You got F. Nelson Bey. You got J. Blakely Bey, you got R. Loveville, and you have the present Grand Sheik, Brother R. Jones Bey. He's the Grand Sheik of the Moorish Temple of America. I've been trying to get with this brother for years, but I don't blame him. I wouldn't get with you either. You know, but the Moorish Temple of America, did you at least say the movement will go so low, you think it vanished from the face of the earth. And then you're going to look up and see nothing but turban and fezzes. And tomorrow is going to be a greater day. Because I'm talking to brothers and sisters right now, and these are they that we need to sit at this table when we go and take our paperwork before the government of the United States. Because in 1913, Noble Ali founded the Moorish Science Temple of America. Wasn't nobody else teaching Islam then. Nobody. Wasn't nobody else teaching Islam in America. Nobody did that. Only time somebody started teaching Islam in America, once Noble Ali passed, and then they was able to give these people this money. But nationality is the order of the day. Nationality is the order of the day. Everybody have a nationality except you and me. And this is why I honor those that I come under, because they had a character. They had a character of the prophet's teachings. And they was trying to learn to love instead of hate and know of their higher self and their lower self. So Porter want the brothers that he's functioning with to know about what took place with the 13 bald-headed moors. I was talking to Grand Bey about that the other day. Grand Bey, my man. And Grand Bey, we was talking about, German Bey had us, we couldn't eat no pork. We couldn't eat none of that stuff. Now you have a lot of Moors that was doing that. And the prophet understood what he was doing. He knew what he was doing because he had to move in certain ways to be able to get his program done. Because the Europeans, they done cut him down. They killed my man. The sister of Moorish Home #1. She told me, she said, Lynch-Bey, if we would have had brothers like you around, when they got the prophet, they wouldn't have been able to get him. And all us dying now. We gone. But the message is clear that nationality is the order of the day, and that we all have a nationality, and that whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. And he sent us Noble Ali. And he sent us Noble Ali this time through H. Scott Ill out of New York City and Brother German Bey. And these brothers got together and started teaching the gospel because they did not want the teachings of the Prophet Noble Ali to come through these institutions. That's why you look at that brother right now. If Jackson Bey wouldn't have did that with the grave site. They got a grave site up there. That the brother that I come up with in the Moorish Temple. Right? If you go to the grave site, they got Porter, German, they got all of them names right there. And people say, what their name is doing up there? Because they the ones that reestablished the prophet's grave site. If it wasn't for these brothers, you wouldn't know anything about the grave site. And these are things that we need to talk about so you can have this history before other brothers leave this plain things made manifest. Because a lot of us is moving out. Allah sent us somewhere else, but we need the history because we are one. All these brothers are the one right now. All these brothers, still a lot of them around right now. John Bey can call a meeting with these brothers. John Bey is a good brother. He called a meeting with Brother Braswell Bey. Yeah, the brother in Chicago. My man, Brother Braswell Bey. And Braswell Bey came to D.C. He came to D.C. to talk to John Bey. Because he was saying that we all need to come together under one head. And Brother Prayford Hill, the Grand Sheik over in Baltimore, Resurrection Temple, Graham Bay, me, I'm the one that drove him. I went to the airport to get him. So we all went, I took him up 71 to meet with this brother. But what he failed to realize is the prophet disbanded the Supreme Grand Council because of certain brothers, because of certain things that transpired. And that was so beautiful what you done, but you need to get in line. You need to get in line because you got a few people over there with you, but the majority of the people that is still here today is the one that Prophet Noble Jew, just like the Cook Bay brothers. I say something about them all the time. I even talking about going to Chicago recently to meet with certain families up there, but they don't want to pay me no mind anyway, but I got something that you don't have, just like you got something that I don't have, and we need to work to build the Prophet's program. Because he said, I've suffered much and severely in the past through misunderstanding of what the movement is dedicated to. It is the great God Allah alone that guides the destiny of this divine and national movement. I know that all true American citizens are identified by national and national descent names in order to answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. The Prophet Noble Jew Ali is going to help this national government. For without a free national name with the decent flag of your forefathers, there is not a national divine title of the government in which you live. Last week, they had something that they put on social media. The Grand Sheik had all the people say, if you was a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he said, what would you bring to this feast that we're having? Some of them said they'd bring a good salad, and all of them bought this, but did nobody say anything about bringing some pork chops? But I remember when I was on that colony, man, they want to beat me up down there. We went through so much about that because they had to learn. But the prophet told us that before too. He said, we knew we were going to go through these trials and tribulations, but he kept the doors open. There's some things that the prophet left. Matter of fact, 3 books. But the 3 books that he left them with C. Kirkland Bey. I'm sitting down, Brother Pleasant, I'm sitting down the colony, and we looking at these particular books that the brother gave because I'm close to these dudes. We close. Ain't but one. Ain't but one temple. Ain't but one prophet. Ain't but one nation. So Jew Ali is a blessing. And I'm going to get up there to see these brothers, Grand Sheik. I'm going to come up there with the brother Porter Hill when he come up there because this stuff that I have, I can't send it to you. Because you give it to the Sheik, you can't. There's another book I have here too. This book here is known as the perfect flame of angel unaware. And it come by a brother named Lynch-Bey. And certain brothers I knew on Moorish Home Number 1 that wasn't actually living the spirit as they should, they wouldn't even open this book and read this book. There's certain literature that the prophet brought us, certain people wouldn't read it if they're not living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Because there's a spirit. There's a spirit that the prophet say he's working for us right now. He said he could do more for us in the spirit than in the flesh. So we have a lot of work to do. And the stuff that I'm telling you, it's ordained to be said. Because Noble Drew Ali is the last prophet in these days and time. Whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. And he sent Drew Ali. He sent Drew Ali to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. But I'm glad I was able to say a little bit because, man, we had spelling bee champions, we had football, basketball. I mean, the brothers were doing a great work, and all these was brothers of Temple 13. They left the Grand Valley, you know, because the brothers came and did, but they don't know, they don't talk about that. Why? Because there's nobody around that was talking about it. I'm looking at Brother Waseer right here. He's our Grand Sheik. He's our Grand Sheik. Y'all talk about, y'all heard about Brother Porter here. Y'all heard about him. I done went on missions with him. This brother was beautiful because he's telling you you're going to be with the prophet or you're not going to be with him. And half of them dudes, the only time they're going to come back to the temple when they're inside the joint anyway. So this is where we come in at. We got work to do. We have a lot of work to do because these Europeans ain't playing. They done took our forefathers. They buried them in Vatican Square. They even got us calling ourselves Negro, colored, and black. We look like Negro, colored, and black. We wearing hats and caps. You know, hats symbolize hatred and caps symbolize captivity. Drew Ali gave us the fez and a turban. And he said, put that on. He said, don't put on no hat and don't put on no cap unless you're on a mission or you're trying to hide something, you know, but I'm always honored to come by the MoorishVoice television broadcast because what I just said there is history that go all the way back to 1954. And these same brothers that I'm talking about, these are brothers that you look in my house, you see them on the wall because these are the brothers that taught me. And the best part about it that I like, when all of them come into fairs and all that, I get the top flight one and let them be the chairman because they can talk real good and do some good work. So I'm always honored. I'm always honored to be able to come before our brothers and sisters. But you need to look at this. You know, just like I say, everybody talking about Hatchet Bear and all these brothers, but they was brothers in the street. They wasn't brothers in the temple. You know, and you need to understand that there's a history that we have to look at. And German Bey and the Prince of Peace told him that. He said, man, I'm so proud and honored to have you, brother, because that was his security all the way up in Chicago. You know, so the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was a lost prophet, you know, he said, I could do more for you in the flesh than in the spirit, or in the spirit than in the flesh. And when we begin to talk about brothers like H. Scott Hill, Porter Hill, German Bey, F. Nelson Bey, because German Bey used to be down there all the time. Even when he left the temple, he was there, but there was brothers and sisters that wanted to learn about the prophet, and he took a vow, he took the Sheik vow to do that. So this is just the beginning of it. We got a lot of great work to do, and I like to give honor to all of those that played a great part in this mission of uplifting fallen humanity, teaching those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Man, I've been struggling. I went through some things in my life, but after every storm come the rainbow. And there's some things I really can't talk about, because if I do that, then you're putting somebody else right there, and they need to know. Matter of fact, they got me in a book out there. Y'all need to look at it. They got a book called The Hills of D.C. They have me in there by McQueen Hill. Y'all have them in there. And I want you to look at the book, and then after you look at the book, give me a call. Because I took him over Baltimore one time to a TV show, you know, and he had put my name in the book. I chump when he would let me know I was in the book. I don't blame him, though, because you can't write nothing about no book because you wasn't in the Moorish Temple. We won't let you in there doing that foolishness. We got work to do. But a lot of stuff going on in the Moorish movement, and Allah's working this. Allah's working it, and Allah said that the movement will go so low you think it vanished from the face of the earth. And then you look up and see nothing but turban and fez. So Allah's working this. Allah's work is working. Just like you talking about the prophet and the literature and things that they have of the prophet, half of it's there and half of it is not there. Like Price Bay. You got to give this sister honor too, because she is the one that told us where the prophet's remains was and sent us over there to find it. And them brothers' names is right on there, and I'm so honored. And everybody said, man, why y'all got that brother up there? Because you running around, you need to do this and you need to do that, and the prophet's teaching is going under. So we growing more, and I'm so honored to be here. I'm away from everywhere, but I'm at home because I'm in my Father's house. And we need to understand that ain't but one temple, one prophet, one nation. And we got to come together under one head like the prophet left it. So everybody, I don't care what temple you with and where you say you go, when you open up a Moorish Temple of America, you got to open it up the way it's supposed to be opened up. You got to read the divine constitution and bylaw, the questionnaire, the 101, and all the literature of the prophet. And if you have something that you want to talk about, then just let the Grand Sheik know, and he'll call you up there. And if you just get up there and just run your mouth without opening the meeting the way that the prophet said, you're in violation. You're in violation. And when you're in violation, then justice going to catch you. Everybody want to be in charge. But we have one Grand Sheik, we have one chairman. And he said that every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet in the Grand Temple. So if you have a temple, and I have a temple, and you're in disagreement with the headquarters, that's on them. Because if you say every subordinate temple can form their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple, all you got to do is teach. That's all you got to do is teach the gospel. Because the resurrection of the dead is not confined to the Jew or the Greek. It is the heritage of every man of every time and clime, and we are here a demonstrator of the power of man. That's why you have a lot of brothers and sisters, they want to go down to the courthouse. And when they go down to the courthouse, they want to go down there and get some kind of paperwork so they don't have to go to the Moorish Temple and study. So in conclusion, I would like to recite the Moorish American prayer, and I'd like to say how honored I am to be able to come before the Moorish Voice television broadcast. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Jew Ali. Amen. Wade in the water, wade in the water, Marlin, wade.